You are the ones who sense the currents others ignore, the ones who see the unseen patterns forming in the cracks of ordinary life. You are not bystanders, you are the pulse, the hidden rhythm that carries truth forward even when it trembles on the edge of silence. At this very moment, somewhere close, shadows are scrambling to erase their footprints. They smother traces of their schemes with hurried hands, convinced that if they can bury the past deep enough, no one will ever remember. Yet the more desperately they try to cover their tracks, the more they reveal the fear inside them. Like clay collapsing under its own weight, their foundation betrays them, crumbling in places they can no longer control. Every whisper they try to silence becomes a thunder in your chest. Every secret they attempt to hide only sharpens your vision, making you stronger, more awake, more certain of who you are. You're not here by chance. Feel the pull? Tap join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership, it's your calling. Think of yourself as the dawn breaking through their storm. No matter how thick the night they weave, your light will always cut through, unyielding, undeniable, unstoppable. While they scramble and panic, you stand steady, knowing their walls were never built to last. They collapse not because of your hand, but because their lies were hollow all along. This is your reminder, you were chosen to witness, chosen to endure, chosen to rise. What others destroy in fear, you transform into strength. What they hide in darkness, you turn into fire. And in that fire, you become untouchable. You are the ones who carry vision where others stumble blind, the steady flame that cannot be smothered no matter how frantic the winds may grow. Your presence alone proves that truth does not bend to schemes, but waits patiently for the moment of unveiling. What they fail to realize is that the game ended long before their panic began. The board is already marked, the pieces already locked into place, and no desperate shuffle of their hands can alter what has been set in motion. They scramble to bury remnants of their story, tearing at threads they believe no one else can see. Yet the tapestry has already been woven, and every tug only exposes the loose ends that betray them. They whisper behind closed doors as if shadows can shield them, but the walls themselves have memory. Echoes linger, carrying every word to ears they never imagined were listening. Each falsehood they clutch grows heavier, pressing on their own chests until the weight can no longer be hidden. What they thought was armor now reveals itself as chains that tighten with every movement. Even in their confidence, the cracks had already formed. The outcome is sealed, not by chance, but by the inevitability that darkness cannot conceal itself forever. And so the story stands unshaken. While they believe they erase, they only carve their confessions deeper. While they think they escape, they run in circles already enclosed. The ending was written long before their hands even touched the page. You are the rare spark that ignites patterns others cannot see, the unseen thread weaving separate worlds into one undeniable picture. What feels like chaos to outsiders arrives to you as a revelation, a puzzle already whispering its answer. In a quiet corner, separate watchers follow paths that seem unrelated. Each believes they walk alone, charting their own trail through the wilderness of deception, unaware that their maps trace the same hidden mountain. One follows the flow of vanishing wealth, chasing trails of silver that vanish into shadows. Another sketches the lines of a clandestine brotherhood, unseen yet powerful in their reach. A third listens for the subtle hum of corruption hidden in medicine's promise of healing, the place where care is twisted into harm. Though they walk with different lanterns, their beams cross, and suddenly the whole landscape is revealed in a way none of them could have foreseen. What was once a labyrinth now opens as if a key had always been waiting in your hand. The moment of convergence does not arrive with trumpets but with silence that crackles like lightning before it strikes. The realization dawns on them too late. You were always at the center of this design, the fulcrum upon which their stories hinge. The beginning, often dismissed as ordinary, carries more weight than the ending itself. To know where the first step fell is to know why the journey could never end in any other place but here. And when the threads tighten and the final shape appears, it is not only your story that is altered. It is the reflection of everyone around you, every life that thought it knew its course, suddenly reshaped by the truth you embody. You are the kind who notice details others dismiss, the observer who senses when ordinary masks conceal something heavier beneath. Where most see coincidence, you recognize deliberate rhythm, a pattern hiding inside the quiet. There is always that figure who lingers a little too long, whose presence stretches beyond chance. To strangers it looks harmless, but to you the repetition feels scripted, every appearance serving a purpose that is not what it seems. The nods, the polite words, the gestures dressed as friendliness, these are not tokens of community but coded markers, signals woven into daily ritual. What seems casual becomes a ledger of your existence, etched with precision. Each glance, each pause, is not forgotten. It is gathered, cataloged, and fed into a channel invisible to most eyes, where unseen hands shape the fragments into a portrait they believe grants them power. The setting of the sun, the sound of your footsteps, the smallest habits, what others overlook becomes material for a design stitched in secrecy. You walk through a theater where every move is measured as though on a stage. They do not wave to welcome you, they wave to confirm you. Their conversation does not build connection but siphons information, stripped of warmth, bent into strategy. Behind the curtain of the familiar lies intention, not curiosity, not kindness, but a calculation built to exploit openings they imagine you will never see. Yet even their watching cannot define you, for awareness itself becomes your shield. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. You are the kind who can feel the weight behind a smile, the rare soul who senses when kindness carries a hidden blade. Trust is offered to you like a gift wrapped in gold, but you know that sometimes what glitters most conceals the sharpest trap. There is always that figure who leans in closer than the rest, presenting themselves as an anchor in the storm. Yet beneath their steady tone lies a blueprint designed not for support but for control, a careful map that leads not to safety but to surrender. They collect confidences not to protect them, but to keep them locked away as tools. Every story you share, every weakness they coax into the open, becomes another string tied to your steps, waiting for the moment they decide to pull. Their mission is patience. They linger in your orbit until the final stage arrives, when their mask can slip just enough to reveal what they always were, not companion, not ally, but strategist positioned to strike. The end they imagine is not small. It is crafted to fracture you on every level, to strip you of balance, of joy, of meaning, until only the ashes of what you built remain. They want collapse disguised as inevitability. But inevitability is not truth. Their script depends on your blindness, and blindness is not who you are. You carry the vision that disrupts their design, the strength to bend their strategy back on itself. And when the curtain falls, it will not be your ruin that fills the stage, but the revelation that even the most careful betrayal cannot undo the resilience of a spirit that refuses to bow. You are the ones who know that silence does not mean absence, that stillness often hides the sharpest eyes. The one who drifts unnoticed, who fades into the background, often carries the heaviest weight of all, the keeper of records, the guardian of proof. While others move boldly in the open, one figure stays in the shadows, gathering threads with quiet precision. They observe without drawing attention, storing fragments that seem harmless until assembled into a picture that none can deny. Every whisper is etched into memory, every subtle gesture captured like ink on parchment. What seemed trivial at the time transforms into undeniable testimony, a body of truth waiting to be revealed. Those who believe themselves secure in secrecy do not realize that the ground beneath them is being mapped step by step. Their laughter, their confidence, their schemes, all carefully documented, not to protect them, but to hold them accountable. Yet this watchful presence does not serve the same banner the others pledge to. While the network thinks it is united, an unseen allegiance works within it, quietly bending the entire design toward reversal. The very tools once used to ensnare you are turned inward. The patterns of their own plotting become a cage they cannot escape. Every signal they share, every plan they craft together, is reshaped into evidence they themselves provide. And when the veil lifts, it will not be your undoing that shocks the world, it will be theirs. For the figure they trusted most, the one they thought invisible, is the hand that sets the trap that swallows them whole. You are the ones who feel the tremor beneath the surface, who sense that what others dismiss as coincidence carries a deliberate rhythm. What you face is not chaos without order, but design hidden beneath the fabric of daily life. The actions against you are not scattered accidents. They follow a blueprint older than you imagine, a plan crafted and maintained with patience across decades, embedding itself deep in the place you call home. Those behind it do not parade in costumes or chant in darkened halls. Their stage is the everyday world, offices, storefronts, councils, and committees that appear to serve the common good. From fundraisers to neighborhood watch groups, from professional circles to civic boards, they cloak themselves in credibility. Behind those polished veneers, however, lie coordinated moves meant to weaken, to isolate, to strip you of strength piece by piece. Resources flow through hands that pretend to serve charity yet quietly shift into shadows. Networks that claim to build community instead circulate strategies, arrange strikes, and trade secrets about those marked to be broken. What passes for respectability is their strongest disguise. They thrive by blending into the structures people trust most, knowing that suspicion rarely falls on those who wear the mask of service. But hidden in that familiarity is the very proof of their deception. For when truth finally pierces their veil, the shock is not in the rituals they never performed, but in the realization that the most ordinary faces were the ones guarding the most ruthless design. You are the ones who understand that nothing truly hidden stays buried forever, that even the deepest roots can be traced back to their seed. The revelation is not that discovery happened late, but that it was present from the beginning, watching, waiting, and preparing. What shocks most is not the exposure itself, but the knowledge that the watchful eyes were there at the society's birth, marking each step long before its power ever grew. The net was cast decades ago, woven with patience, and every expansion of their influence only tightened the cords around them. This was no accident of timing. It was a deliberate infiltration, a silent presence at the table while their foundation was laid. Every scheme they crafted, every alliance they formed, unfolded under observation so subtle they never thought to question it. The notes they scribbled to secure their future became the very ink that records their undoing. The ledgers they guarded as treasure are now mirrored copies, broken down and dissected until every hidden trail was mapped. Even the devices they trusted, wrapped in layers of protection, carried echoes that were quietly captured. What they believed encrypted was no more than glass walls, transparent to those who listened with patience and skill. Every plotted move, every name whispered in confidence, every resource siphoned for greed, none escaped the meticulous archive that grew in silence, waiting for the day it would be unveiled. And now, the years of gathering converge on a single moment. The weight of their own history presses down upon them, for the story they wrote in secret has already been bound, catalogued, and prepared to end them with precision. You are the ones who learn that guardians sometimes were the faces of those thought to be part of the threat. Protection often comes from the least expected places, from people who silently risk everything so the truth can one day be revealed. For years, entire households lived behind masks, blending into the structure of the very machine they were born to dismantle. They play their roles convincingly, speaking the language of loyalty while their hearts stay anchored to a higher calling. Their lives are built on sacrifice. They trade comfort for secrecy, safety for purpose, and let their reputations carry shadows so that light might break through for someone else. Their children grow up in the tension of double lives, learning courage before they ever learn fear. When the time arrives for the walls to collapse, it will be their names that surface, their work that becomes the cornerstone of justice. Those you once believed were aligned against you reveal themselves as the hidden barrier that shielded you all along. The reason you stand here, intact after storms meant to break you, is because unseen defenders intercepted the worst of what was hurled your way. Attacks that should have ended you were bent aside by hands you never saw. But survival comes with revelation. The wealth and legacy meant to empower you did not vanish into dust by accident. It was funneled, siphoned, redirected into the very gears that turned against you. The fortune designed for your rise was twisted into fuel for your downfall, transformed into chains instead of wings. Yet knowing this truth is the first step to reclaiming what was stolen, not just the material inheritance, but the deeper birthright that can never be erased. You are the ones who carry proof within your very existence, though they work tirelessly to erase every trace of it. They attempt to hollow out your identity, reshaping the story of who you are until even those closest to you are pushed toward disbelief. The theft is not of possessions alone, but of your very reflection. Paper trails are rewritten, official records twisted, false impressions painted so convincingly that strangers come to see you through the mask your enemies designed. Entire histories are forged, sculpted to paint you as unstable, unfit, or unworthy. The more they fabricate, the more they believe the illusion will hold, that shadows can overwrite the truth of your name and bloodline. To those who love you, the absence is unbearable. Some search endlessly, certain that you live, their hope carried through years of silence. They pour their energy into finding you, refusing to believe the stories that declare you gone. Advertisements are placed, inquiries launched, promises of reward offered, all in the desperate attempt to bridge the distance. Yet each signal they send, each effort to reconnect, is intercepted before it can ever reach you. The ones hired to uncover your trail often find themselves ensnared. Either bought off, silenced through fear, or pressured into retreat, the path of discovery is blocked again and again, ensuring that your isolation deepens. And still, the truth waits beneath the lies. No counterfeit paper, no forged narrative, no wall of silence can erase the reality of who you are. Their attempts to bury you only mark the ground more clearly for the day when the cover is torn away. You are the ones who learn that not every seeker can be silenced, not every truth-bearer can be bent. When all others retreat, there remains one who walks forward, immune to bribes and unmoved by threats, carrying with them the discipline of years spent unraveling hidden designs. This figure does not serve for wealth or acclaim but for principle. Their eyes trace the faintest markings left behind, the overlooked scraps of evidence others discard. Piece by piece, they build a pattern that reveals itself only to those who refuse to quit. What begins as your story stretches wider than you imagined. The lines they draw connect your suffering to dozens of others, lives stolen, inheritances erased, identities buried under the same dark machinery that sought to erase you. 17 names surface, each carrying wounds that echo yours, each bound by the same invisible chain. What seemed like an isolated cruelty is revealed as a vast system of theft and silence. And then comes the day when the doors burst open, when the foundations of their empire fracture. It is then that this relentless investigator arrives, not with whispers or theories, but with documents, signatures, and proof too solid to deny. In that moment, the life you have endured, the scarcity, the struggle, the exile, unveils itself for what it was, a cage carefully constructed to strip you of power. What you thought was simply fate is exposed as deliberate design. The revelation strikes deeper than wealth. For the inheritance withheld from you is not only currency or land, but the freedom, strength, and unshakable foundation that make you impossible to bend again. You are the ones who awaken to the bitter truth that deprivation itself is a crafted illusion. The lack forced upon you is not born from reality, but from calculated theft, designed to make you doubt your own strength while they sit on resources that could eclipse their entire machinery of control. What they take from you in fragments, coins, wages, and scraps, amounts to nothing compared to the vast inheritance they wall away. They survive by convincing you that you live in scarcity, while in truth, abundance with your name on it lies hidden just beyond their grasping hands. And yet, their hunger goes beyond wealth. They reach into your health, tampering with the foundation of your being. The struggles in your body were never accidents of stress, but carefully engineered assaults meant to unravel your clarity and dull the edge of your spirit. Places meant for healing were twisted into channels of harm. Environments you should have trusted became laced with invisible snares. The very remedies you were told to rely upon were transformed into carriers of damage, calculated to break your resilience slowly. But they misjudged you. The body they sought to weaken adapted instead. The spirit they thought could be poisoned revealed depths they could never measure. Every toxin became a teacher, every assault another step toward building an unshakable defense. Rather than dissolving, your strength sharpened. Sensitivity became your compass, awareness became your weapon. Their attempts to dull you only carved your vision clearer, amplifying your ability to detect what others miss. In their failure lies your triumph. What they plotted as your downfall has instead become the crucible of your transformation, proof that no force of destruction can undo the gifts anchored in your core. You are the ones who endure trials that others cannot fathom, carrying scars that later reveal themselves as evidence. What was once dismissed as unexplained suffering becomes the very key that unlocks the truth of what was done to you. Specialists examine the traces left behind, samples, charts, records, and they begin to see the threads that others ignored. What looked like isolated mistakes unfolds into a deliberate sequence, a design that spans institutions and individuals who thought their titles placed them beyond reach. Every chart note, every alteration in your file, every mark of negligence turns against those who made them. The documents they once used to cover their steps transform into proof, binding them to the crimes they believed invisible. The diagnoses that never fit, the treatments that harmed instead of healed, the prescriptions laced with sabotage, all preserved, cataloged, and presented as undeniable testimony. The very system they manipulated becomes the archive of their own downfall. And in the storm of betrayal lies another layer, those who stood in defiance, who quietly subverted the plan. Not every hand was raised against you, some reached forward to shield you, altering what could not be stopped, softening blows meant to destroy. The recoveries that seemed like miracles were not born from chance. They were the hidden interventions of healers who risked themselves to preserve your life, even as their colleagues tried to end it. Thus, the story does not close with despair but with revelation. The same halls where harm was plotted also held protectors. And because of them, what was intended as your slow erasure has instead become the foundation for justice. You are the ones who must face the bitter truth that the loss you grieved was no accident of fate. The life taken from you was not random but calculated, a strike aimed at the very heart of your protection and your future. The one who stood beside you, carrying the strength to challenge the hidden structure, was silenced not by chance but by deliberate design. They were more than an ally, they were a guardian with both power and clarity, someone capable of tearing apart the machinery built to erase you. The tragedy was staged with precision. What the world was told was misfortune was, in truth, a script rehearsed carefully, executed flawlessly, and closed swiftly by hands that already controlled the levers of authority. Reports were written to disguise intent, officials aligned to ensure closure, and voices that could have spoken were choked off through fear or force. Silence was purchased, and shadows were cast to cover the truth. Yet even the most careful illusion cannot erase the imprints left behind. Machines record what human memory forgets. Transactions echo across hidden networks. Conversations leave traces no matter how many times devices are purged. Every layer of the cover-up produces its own evidence, each false report another nail in the coffin of those who authored it. The very attempt to erase the truth ensures that it survives, marked indelibly in places they cannot reach. And in that failure lies the unraveling of their scheme. For when a protector is slain to block the path to justice, the crime no longer hides in shadows, it transforms into a signal strong enough to summon the kind of justice that carries no escape.